Go to the Tynan warehouse in Calgary. Pick up Jensen's sofa and chair. On your way in, stop by the Carls and replace this switch in the washer timer.
Did you see that? Did you see that? I think that was a war range. 50 plus years in the appliance service industry, and I have never seen a war range.
Welcome back. Today we have a story about a lesson learned the hard way. We call this one Clamshell Economics.
I was about 17 the first time I tangled with a GE Clamshell Timer. Dad handed me one of the switch components and he said, "Here, replace this." That was the full instruction set. My father wasn't a teacher. He could fix anything, but breaking it down for somebody else, well, it was just easier for him to do it himself. He wasn't the brooding, antisocial type, but a lovable, respected savant of the practical world who assumed everyone else could see the solution as clearly as he did. So off I went. No guidance, no supervision, no cell phone, no YouTube, certainly no tech support. Just a deadline, install the part, then head to Calgary, pick up a Chesterfield for a customer that we were going to deliver the next day. Laundry rooms weren't the big, bright, tiled spaces people have now. They were corners of basements lit by 60-watt bulb and maybe a dingy window streaked with dirt. No flashlight, no additional light source of any kind, just the good vision of a young man. What most service people don't articulate is vision is sight, feel, and intuition based on experience. In other words, your vision tends to get better as you get older. At first glance, it looked pretty simple. The switch module was held in place by a single 1/4-inch screw marked with a dab of red paint, so anyone could tell if it had been removed. Not that it mattered. Warranties didn't exist where we lived, and factory service was a myth. The store you bought your product from was your warranty provider. I removed the screw and the switch moved maybe a bit, but it was hung up inside by what? I couldn't tell. Looking at the replacement part, I noticed tiny Bakelite spacers that kept the contacts aligned and separated. Later, I learned that these spacers were the usual failure spot. When one cracked and broke, the contacts that were never meant to touch would, shorting the circuit. If you were lucky, it blew a fuse. But on many farms, they were considered a nuisance, and they were often bypassed entirely. So when the switch shorted, the main fuse, the one out on the pole out in the yard, would blow, and the whole farm would go black. Very dramatic and very unpopular. So anyway, the switch looked especially delicate. Those spacers. What would happen if I forced it and the spacers broke off inside? Would that be a disaster waiting for a time? Yeah, forcing it out seemed like a bad idea. So with my 17-year-old eyesight, I decided the only way forward was to disassemble the entire timer.
Oh my, Doug, you, my friend, are about to get a lesson in Clamshell Economics.
Those timers were marvels. Complex but logical, full of cams and contacts. They were also booby-trapped for the limited vision of a 17-year-old. Move the last screw and pop, followed by the unmistakable tiny parts scattering across the inside of a washer. It took hours to reassemble, hours of testing. Taking it apart again, move a piece, reverse another, try to get the cycle sequencing just right. I barely made it into Calgary in time to get that Chesterfield. When I got home, Dad asked what took so long. I started to explain the stuck switch, the spacers, the exposure to parts, and he cut me off with a shrug. You didn't have to take the timer apart to change the switch? And that was that. Dad got no argument from me. My first experience with a clamshell timer. Was it a failure? I certainly thought so. But it was also a coming of age moment. In a small way, I snatched a tiny victory from the colossal jaws of defeat. To this day, I am loath to walk away from a product that either doesn't work or, worse, doesn't match the customer's expectation. Getting a product to meet factory specs, generally that's easy. Getting it to meet a customer's expectations, well, that's an art. When I look back over 50 plus years, I still wonder whether all that effort was a deficit or an asset. There's that old line, do more than you're being paid to do, and eventually you'll be paid for more than you do. And it's been running in the background of my mind for as long as I can remember. But if I'm being honest, I don't know if I can say it ever came true in the way the quote promises. What I can say is I've had a great life and I celebrate it every day. And I encourage people to get into this trade because it can be very rewarding and it's stable and it can carry you through a lifetime. Can I hold my own choices up as some life-affirming testament to hard work, excellent customer service? I don't know. Plenty of people get by, even succeed, by doing less. But I lived it. It shaped me. And I still ask the same of everyone who works for me.
What we have here is a classic story every technician who ever repaired an appliance knows. Things often don't go as planned, and when they don't, the technician's dedication to the product and the customer determines how much unrecoverable time and money go into the effort to put things right.
Yes, and in this case, Doug would be the first to say his inexperience was the reason the repair got so far off track. As such, he is comfortable with his choice to stay until it worked. However, far more often the technician is burning money, his own, his employer's if he has one, or his customers'. Somewhere that technician may have to reevaluate and come up with a plan that looks after all the parties.
Hey, thank you for seeing this to the end. You are a real person of class and distinction. Stay tuned. There is plenty more coming your way real soon.